Hey everybody, so I wanted to make a really quick video for your chapter 5 and 6 exam. So your first problem is writing an augmented matrix for the system. So you just use the coefficients of each term. So, you know, the 4 in front of the x goes inside the matrix. So just be careful about that, because, you know, if you make a tiny mistake like a negative or something, it could cause you an issue. So just be mindful of that. And then for the next problem, we have evaluate the determinant. So you just need to know that when you do the determinant, right, A, B, C, D, this is multiply on the diagonal. So A times D minus B times C. So you just multiply -1 times 2 and multiply that by 4 and 8, or 8 times 4, which is 32. And then that's how you get your result. Next, for the determinant, you are just going to multiply on the diagonal. So 2 times 2 is 4, right? And then you subtract 10, and you're going to get -1/6. But you'll see later that I made a little tiny mistake right there. But anyway, so you switch your diagonals, and then you make the other diagonal negative of that. So right here, it was supposed to be a -1/6, and I caught it at the very end. So you set up your matrix to do the other part that you have to multiply. Okay, so then once you switch that around, then you can take that matrix and you're going to bring it down and just multiply. And again, like I said, I caught the negative at the end, but you just multiply that fraction to everything on the inside. And then solving with the substitution method, you're just going to use the first equation. You're going to substitute in 3x for y, and then you're just going to solve. For the next part, you're just going to substitute 1/3 in for x, and you're just going to simplify and solve. Now for this one, I am setting it up as a matrix because you can solve it that way, but we want to use Cramer's rule. So what I did was inserted a portion that will be from the book, because I didn't really go over Cramer's rule heavily, and especially to show you that it's another way to solve a system of equations. So what I did here is I just added the two equations together, and then I solved for x. But I'm going to show you the part from the book. Okay, so if you look here, solving systems in two variables using determinants. Now, it is tricky. So above is the determinant, the example 1. But the terminology can be super confusing, so you can just pause the video and kind of thumb your way through it so that you can read the theoretical parts where it's showing you, this is what is actually happening in order for us to solve for X and Y. It can be a bit much, it can be overwhelming, but basically the variable that you're solving for, you kind of eliminate it and you use the actual C's. So you see C1 and C2, that is actually what it is equal to. It's usually just a constant. So you can see there it's a little cut off, but if I'm solving for X, I'm going to use C and B, and then I'm going to divide it by the determinant. So this is a little bit of a clearer picture. So you see for X, I have the C1 and C2, and then I have the column for the Y. And then that's the way I think about it. So, and then I divide it by the determinant. And that's all just numerical values. And then for the Y, it's the X column with the A1 and A2. And then I put the C1 and C2 in for the Y column. So I'm just going to be quiet and let you read that over. And then you see here, there is a concrete example of how it gets done. So I'm going to take this directly and go back to the problem that is actually on your exam, because there's so many different ways to solve for X and Y at this point. But this is, just a different way using Cramer's rule. And then the determinant for 3 by 3, super complicated. Yes, when I learned it, I had to do it all by hand. A little bit of it got cut off, but you have your book. So that's basically what you do. You kind of just stomp out the first column and the first row in order to figure out the first set. And then you subtract the second set. And then you add the third set. Okay? It's very complicated. And then there you can see the depiction of how that goes. It is very easy to make a mistake, especially if you have negatives. And as you can see here, there's an example and there's the solution. And yes, it is a lot. I remember using this a lot with my electromagnetics class. So if you're going to be an electrical engineer, you need to be good at this. And then you see on the left side, there is a technology example because yes, the calculator will do it for you. And you can use your Desmos calculator to, if you really want to explore and do any complicated problems, be my guest. And I think it got cut off a little bit because I had to size the video for YouTube, but it's fascinating, and it definitely exercises your brain. Okay, now back to that actual problem. Okay, and I don't have a lot of room, but I'll make it work. So just follow along. I don't want to talk all the way through it because it can be a lot anyway, right? But basically what you do is you're going to start with the X value. So you're going to put C1 and C2 in there, and then you're going to copy what's in the column for the Y variable. And then you're just going to do the determinant, right? So 7 times -1 is -7, and you're going to subtract 1 times 1. And then that is your D sub X. And then you're going to do the determinant of the original matrix to figure out what your D is. The D just stands for the determinant. And so then you do it for the Y column. And again, I don't have a lot of room. So you want your D sub Y. So that is going to be you write your 1, 1, and then you're going to replace the Y column with the C1 and C2, and then you do the same thing. So you're just going to do the determinant of this, so 1 times 1 minus 7, which is -6, and then you find your determinant and you divide both of the terms by the determinant. And then you want to just fill in the blanks, right? So that's pretty straightforward. Here, if you read the question, you're just substituting the values in to see if it's a solution or not. And for the second one, you see it doesn't work, so it's not a solution. And then for this one, I'm going to not talk so much through it, but you definitely do want to be careful because there's so many variables all over the place. But you can, to use the substitution method, you need to simplify a little bit before you do that, so you can just follow along. And so once you get your solution for x, then you just plug that into the equation. And I just use the first equation, and you can leave it as is. Just plug it back in, and you just solve for y. And then for number 10, it's just basically the solution of a system. What is the vocabulary for that? It's kind of a conceptual question. And then you're just writing a matrix. You're writing equation number 1 and number 2 based off of the matrix. So that's pretty straightforward. Then for number 13, you are just multiplying A times B and then B times A. So I'm just going to do A times B. And you can use Desmos to verify. So remember, it's the Desmos matrix calculator. So just make sure that you Google the right one. And there you go. So I'm going to do it by hand. So you can pause the video and you can go through it with me. You know, I'm writing on a slant, writing as best and as fast as I can. So just follow along and make sure that you understand how to multiply at least a 2x2 matrix by hand so that you can show your work on the exam. So there you go. I was able to verify the solution, and then you can do the other one on your own. So I'm also going to perform this one, so just do be careful about the order. It matters. So do check your work to make sure, and you can also verify it with the Desmos calculator before you answer in the system. So just follow along. I just rearranged some things so that they would look a little bit simpler. I like for my X, even if it's even if it represents a matrix, to be on the left. It's just my preference. And then you can just follow along. I kind of just go through it in little chunks, so just follow along. And then we have two questions that are just fill in the blank, so those are pretty straightforward. And then we have number 17, where you're just verifying the solution again. So same as before. And then finally, to solve for X, we need to use the determinant. So what this is saying is you're going to multiply on the diagonal, and then you're going to set it equal to 13 to figure out what the value of X is. And you see the solution is already there, but you're just going to multiply on the diagonal, set it equal to 13, and then you're just going to solve for X. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video. I tried to put my face in it just for a little change. Just do your best. Make sure that you take some notes from this to help you out. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.